My name is Will Actually, and yeah, of course I have a podcast. I'm broadcasting all the way from my mother's basement to bring you All the King's Voices, a podcast about gender, performance, and everything in between. Now, before I introduce today's guest, I do want to mention that we recorded while they're living in Korea, so neither of us were in face for this interview since they were waking up early and I was about to go to bed. So just keep that in mind. We are not in character, if you will, throughout this interview. Today's guest is Sapphire Reign, who brings humor and charisma to the stage as South Korea's premier draglesque king. As both a drag king and burlesque performer with Crash Landed Seoul and WhiteLies Burlesque, Sapphire Reign has graced major stages in Korea such as Seoul Queer Culture Festival and the Werq The World Seoul. Internationally, Sapphire Reign has performed throughout the San Francisco Bay Area, most often with the Rebel Kings of Oakland. Over the last few months, Sapphire Reign has also enjoyed performing in various international online shows with Kings of the World, Killer Queen, and Burlesque at home.
Hi, my name is Sapphire Reign. I'm a drag king in Seoul, South Korea. I am part of a burlesque troupe here locally, and I also am an organizer with Crash Landed Seoul, which is a drag, I don't say troupe, a drag. We organize drag shows. I don't know what the word for that is. Organization? Yeah.
Producing collective?
Yeah, whatever. We produce shows.
That's awesome. Well, welcome. So let's start by talking a little bit about kind of how you got into kinging. And, you mentioned that you were in burlesque, so talk a little bit about your performing background.
It's funny because I got into burlesque. I lived in Korea almost 4 years now. And when I moved here, I made friends with this girl, and she was like, "Hey, I have a coworker who's doing like a burlesque workshop. Do you want to go?" And I was like, "I don't know what that is. Let's do it." And I went, and I was like, "This is exactly what I want to do." So I joined the team, and our team WhiteLies is all about no auditions required. Everyone's welcome. So really welcoming and supportive, and I did that. And I did burlesque for about a year, and every month we have a different theme for the show, and one show's theme was rock and roll, and I was like, I'm gonna do Bohemian Rhapsody. And I did it as Freddie Mercury, and I did 4 costume changes in one song, and it was a whole production, and I had a lot of fun. And then someone in the audience, actually a member of the troupe, she was like, "It's so cool you're being a drag king now." I was like, I've never heard of that term. I'm just dressed as a man and taking my clothes off.
Yeah.
And she was like, no. And then she was like, they do a drag prom in Busan every year. And she's like, WhiteLies is being invited, and they're asking if we have any drag kings. And you are one now. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, yeah, come down. So my first real drag show was this big drag prom. It's a huge thing they do every year in Busan. Wow. And I was like, I don't feel comfortable calling myself a drag king. I've never done this before. And she was like, you are one. Even if you didn't mean to be, you are. And so I kind of just jumped from there, and I started reaching out to drag shows in Seoul.
Wow.
I have experience now as the drag king.
That's so amazing. I didn't realize that you slid in by accident.
Yeah, I went home and Googled what is a drag king, because I'd never.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah.
So I guess what is a drag king then? What is a drag king to you?
I guess someone who a drag king is someone who wants to perform masculinely. Is that a word?
Yes, I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be on stage necessarily, but in a performative way.
Yeah.
Represent in a masculine. Yeah, masculine. It's very vague, but.
I mean, it's hard to kind of pin it down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So so, obviously you hadn't intended to become a king,
Yeah.
but then suddenly you were a king.
Yeah.
So how do you see your performances sort of differing between when you do burlesque femininely per se, right? Then versus
Yeah.
drag or draglesque, because I've seen your
Yeah.
draglesque and it's
Yeah.
wonderful. What's the difference, do you think?
I get that question so much. I don't perform femme very often anymore.
Yeah.
I don't really distinguish between the two. I've done drag or burlesque shows. I've done burlesque and drag shows, and I haven't gotten too many complaints.
That's good.
I don't like the thing with our producing team. I'm really pushing. I'm really because the other two people on the team are drag queens, like solely drag queens,
Oh,
and
okay.
I'm really, really, really trying to push that like there is no difference. I mean, there's a difference, but like for a performance space for a show,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter whether you're doing drag or burlesque, and we can have both. And they're like, well, it's predominantly a drag show, and I'm like, uh,
Yeah,
right.
I feel like that only matters if there's like blue law, like you can't do XYZ in terms of taking your pants off or whatever, right?
Yeah, we don't have that here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it really
And you
only
can't
matters
show
on
your
like
nipples.
Twitch.
Yeah, it's not a problem. So I'm really trying. I'm really trying to push that like it because people ask me so much. They're like, I'm like, oh, I'm part of a burlesque troupe too, and they're like, oh, I don't really want to see burlesque, and I'm like, like literally the same exact thing you saw tonight is what I will be doing on that stage. Like there is no difference.
That's so
And
interesting.
they're like, I don't know if it's like a queer friendly space. Like I come to drag shows because I'm queer, and I'm
Spend a few minutes
like
at a neo burlesque show.
yeah, like you obviously haven't been to one if you think that's what it is.
Yeah.
So I'm trying. But like, so I don't have like a different, like when like my Sapphire Reign started as my burlesque name,
Oh, okay.
when like people tried to give me ideas for like drag names and I was like, I don't feel like I'm going to be doing vastly different things.
Yeah.
I didn't, I changed the spelling, like it was Rain, Rain for a while, and I changed it to Reign because it felt more
Kingly.
masculine. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Um, that's really, yeah, I don't feel like it's two different personas. Like I try to tell people that like the difference between drag and burlesque to me is that burlesque is like a play on, it's a play on sexuality, like your sensuality, and then drag is like a play on your gender. And those can obviously go hand in hand.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I like that.
I thought like
Yeah.
people ask me so many times, I was like, I have to come up with a good answer for this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a really good way of putting it. Just because in terms of like what the focus is, right?
Yeah,
Like the
yeah,
spotlight, right? Because you can still play with gender in burlesque. There's plenty of
sure,
that, and you
yeah,
can still play with sensuality and sexuality in drag. It's just what is the
yeah.
way in?
What do you say? Spotlight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
And you
gonna
can
steal
do
that.
one without
Thanks.
the other. Go for it. Yeah, I mean, you could do just gender stuff, and it doesn't have to be sexual, but like,
Right.
you know, it so often is.
Right. No, for sure. No, that's a really good way of putting it. And and that way I think especially when you describe it that way, I think one thing that's really nice about that is that it then doesn't preclude a king from being on a burlesque stage or
Yeah,
a burlesque performance on a drag stage,
yeah,
whereas you do get a lot of that gatekeeping where it's like,
yeah,
I don't like this because,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Food for thought.
Or even things like I'm like I'll do the same act, but if I find myself being like it's a drag show, I wear my binder. It's a burlesque show, I wear pasties, and it's like does it really matter?
Yeah, but but in some cases it does, right? Like have you had any of those experiences where you do an act and you're just like, well, that was the wrong audience.
Yes, of course, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
Yeah.
I even did like I mean, a lot of my burlesque isn't even femme. I often just like dress as animals, and they're like gender non-specific. And so I did one at a drag. I've done at burlesque shows several times. I had this one where I reenact the Very Hungry Caterpillar, and
Yep, yep. I've
I
seen some of those Instagram posts, and I'm yep.
and I've done it at burlesque shows like several times, and everyone always loves it. And I did it at a drag show, and the commentary I got was just kind of like, I don't understand. Like it was really long, and no one had an issue. No one explicitly said the pasties were a problem. They were just kind of like, what was I watching? And I was like, I mean, I guess it wasn't explicitly drag, but like it wasn't explicitly femme either.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one had I don't know, they didn't have a problem. They were just kind of like, this is not what a drag show is. And I was like, but it can be.
Right? But it can be. Open your
Yeah.
mind, people.
Yeah. Like, all right. Okay.
That's so
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, especially I have a tendency to not fit in because I'll be like, I'm going to do musical theater at a show that's primarily like not musical theater, and people are always
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, if they don't know the reference, they're not getting it. They're like,
Yeah.
I don't know
nope.
this. Yeah. Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah, that's so funny. So, what is the scene like in Seoul? Like, you've talked a little bit about there's burlesque, right? There's drag, but what is the community like? And you've also had the opportunity to perform here in the States, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
Do you see any differences? Like, what's the scoop?
The thing with, okay, I don't want to get too much into drama, but like the thing with,
We can keep it drama free.
the thing with the scene here is that like the audience is largely expats. Yeah, we get some Koreans at our shows, but like maybe a third of the audience will be Korean, and if they are Korean, they're like Koreans who have lived abroad. They're not like, you know what I mean? There's this like the scenes are very separate. There's like a Korean gay scene. They have their own neighborhood. They have their own clubs. They have their own drag queens. And I've like worked with some of them. Like we collaborate, but like the audiences don't really overlap.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then the Korean scene is like there's the Korean queens, there's the Korean kings, and they do not overlap. They have the lesbian and gay scenes in Korea are very separate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Korean queens are very much about being like your classic glamorous, like, you know, passing, you know. And then the king scene is very much like radical feminists, free the nipple, like they're out protesting. Like every time they perform is a protest. Like to the point where like, which is great, but like me on my visa, I'm not allowed to get involved in political things. So like I always want to go to support, and then I get there and I'm like, I don't know if I'm allowed to be, like it's not for me. I know, like I'm always the one foreigner there. And even when I'm asked to perform, I'm literally the only foreigner there.
Oh, wow.
There have been times where I'm like, hey, can my friend buy a ticket to the show? And they're like, oh no, we sold out weeks ago. They like sell out. They have a huge following and it's amazing. But I'm always like, I am like, I don't know. Am I like the token foreigner, or like I don't know what they're saying, like, but I know it's like powerful.
Yeah.
Like I'm not the person that this is for, you know. And like we worked together a few times, but like they have their own thing going on, and that's great. I'm not legally allowed to get involved.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. The Korean scene is very much they're separate between like the queens and the kings. They don't really overlap like at all.
Yeah.
Like at all. The expats drag scene is much more overlapped kings and queens wise. But the issue is that there's more performers than there are audience members. So there's always like tension as to like which drag show you're going to, like, you know, fighting up the audience. And like the thing with the expats here is that people often come just for a year and they leave. So they usually leave around February, March. So like every March we're like, we have to get the new people in because you're losing your audience, and like you're always trying to advertise. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. So how do you actually go about doing that? Because I know just in general, trying to get audience members to come to a show is fun. It's an experience, right? There's always the people who are always there in the front row supporting and like God bless them, right? But then there's always the chairs in the back that you're trying to fill, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
how do you go about, especially when your
yeah.
audience isn't even necessarily familiar with the area?
Yeah,
How do you find
yeah.
them?
So there's different types of I call them foreigners, different kinds of foreigners in Korea. There's like me, an English teacher. There's the English teachers. There's the American military. There's a lot of American military in Korea. And bless them, a lot of them are queer friendly and queer themselves, and they struggle with that.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of like international students, so like college students who come here. So like those are kind of like the three scenes that you try to like get your way into. Mostly just like, I mean, like Facebook groups are huge here because they're a way for us to connect. There's like a Facebook group for literally every expat scene. There's a expat queer group, an expat knitters group, an expat whatever group you could want.
That's great.
So I just kind of like find the ones that be like, queer people might be interested in this, or like
Yeah.
dancers might be interested in this show. I just kind of like spread it out through Facebook often. And then also like on the through the burlesque shoot through WhiteLies, we have people who are in the military, we have people who are college students, and through them I'm like, hey, invite your friends,
Yeah.
and they get and like I've been put in touch with people like on the U.S. Air Force bases and stuff who are organizing queer events, and you know,
Oh, that's great.
yeah. So it's just meeting, networking, you know. Because it's all kind of word of mouth, and because people will come up to Seoul, like they will come up to Seoul from all over Korea to come to gay bars. I mean, even like a month ago when we had like our second wave of coronavirus, it started at the Korean gay club district, right?
Right.
And when like tracked everyone, it was like, well, I think they have almost 300 people associated with that who were infected, but like 40 to 50 of them were from Busan, which is like the furthest south, like opposite end of the country. So people literally, they travel up from Busan just to go to a gay club because
Wow.
Seoul is the only city that has gay clubs. Yeah. So you get people traveling. I mean, there's a drag queen I know who lives down near Busan, and she travels every weekend up here to perform.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it's really, I mean, Busan has like, they do their drag prom once a year. They have like a big drag show, but that's it. They don't do like, we do weekly stuff, you know? So you get people from all over.
Yeah. I mean, that's also really cool. Terrible in the
Yeah.
time of coronavirus, but also really cool.
Yeah.
Right? That you
no,
can be
and
that
it's
outpost.
Yeah, and that like, honestly, that Korea has great public transportation. You can take an hour and a half train and it costs you only like $30 and then you're in Seoul, and yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. After living in the San Francisco Bay Area for 7 years, plus years, public transportation from the South
Yeah.
Bay.
Yeah, I don't miss having a car.
Yeah, it's fun. But yeah, so you you do come and you perform internationally.
Oh,
You are
yeah.
an international performer now. Yeah, so do you so I guess the big difference I'm hearing then is that the king and queen scene, at least when we performed together in San Francisco, right? Like it's a little bit more mixed and you don't know who you're going to, there's also the burlesque scene, which is a little bit more mixed too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, the expat drag scene is mixed between kings and queens. The Korean scene is not, but
Oh,
the
okay.
expat scene, which is where I perform, because I'm not really invited usually into Korean spaces,
Yeah.
which is fine. It's definitely more mixed at the shows that like I usually perform at. The difference though is just because there's like we're fighting over audience members, like it gets a lot more competitive and catty and like.
Gotcha.
That was the biggest thing. Like my first time performing the Rebel Kings, I was like, "You mean like kings can like enjoy each other and like lift each other up and support each other? Like that's not something I had experienced." Like our burlesque troupe was like that, but it's because we're like a troupe, we're a family. You know, the
Right.
drag scene isn't like that. It's like everyone for themselves, trying to get every gig they can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I the first trip I performed with Rebel Kings, I came back to Korea and I was like, we have to create this here. And I reached out to a few kings that I knew, and they were like, like it's like established kings. Like it's like there's a few other established kings in Seoul, and they were like, okay,
Yeah.
go ahead and try, but I don't really want to be involved. And so I have like I'm like trying. We did a few workshops and stuff, and I have people who are interested and they need to develop their performance style. But like
Sure.
it's a work in progress, and yeah, it was just kind of like heartbreak. I don't know. I was like, I kind of had hoped that like we could, the other kings here would like want to be involved, and
Yeah.
they were not so interested. And I was like, sure, we'll support you from a distance. Go ahead. I was
Yeah.
like, "Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's hard when you do have that competitiveness, right? Like, it's
Yeah,
just, it's built into the system
yeah,
that, if there just aren't enough audience members, you do have to be every person for themselves, right?
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Oh, but
So
that's
that's
sad. Well, just, keep coming back to the States, I'm sure.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I kept like, I don't know. I just love performing Rebel Kings. Like every time I go, my friends here are always like, you always like are like crying every time you perform with them. I'm like, because it's the best experience.
Yeah, and
Like
you
you don't
perform.
understand like
I'm
you don't
sorry.
understand like what it can be, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like there's potential, and I know I had a few queens here who, like flew to San Francisco, and they were like, you were raving about the Rebel Kings and like the Oakland scene, so I went to the Bay Area and it sucked. And I was like, well, maybe I don't know. Maybe the queen scene is different in San Francisco. I don't know. I've never been. I don't know. They were
Yeah.
like, I didn't feel the energy you were talking about, and I was like, I don't. I'm not saying every drag show in the Bay Area is like a Rebel Kings are special, okay?
Yeah, they really are. And you
Yeah.
performed right kind of at the beginning of the coronavirus stuff, right? You flew back home.
Yeah. I was really worried because like when I got to the show, I was like, hey, Vera, could you like not announce that I just arrived from Korea like 3 days ago? And she was like, what's the problem? And I was like, maybe just be like, I'm a visiting performer.
Yeah. Yeah. That must have been so scary too, just in general, like not knowing. Because I think, that was what? That was March, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was in the U.S. March 1st to the 20th. Yeah, like
Yeah.
3 weeks.
So that's like when stuff started getting real and then, everything
But
started
yeah,
shutting down and.
yeah, it was weird because like in Korea things were bad. I mean, things were bad in Daegu. They weren't bad in Seoul.
Right.
And I had like heard all these things about there are going to be all these like issues at the airport, and like my dad was like, you might be quarantined, and then I just kind of like walked right through, and it wasn't any problem. Yeah, I was wearing a mask, and the TSA agent was like, "Ma'am, take your mask off," and I was like, "I just got off a plane from Korea." They're like, "You have to take your mask off to like to verify the." I was even like, "I came from Korea," like I mumbled it, and he was like, "Oh, cool, welcome home," and I was like, "All right, no further questions." He's like, "Go on through." I was like, "Okay, this is why we have a problem."
Yep.
Yeah. So,
What a
and then like
mess.
the first week here, I was wearing a mask, and like my dad like literally laughed at me when he picked me up from the airport. I was wearing a mask, and he was like, "Why are you wearing that thing?" I was like, "Because I just got off a plane from Korea."
Yeah. Isn't it like, it's so absurd that that was only a few months ago, and now
Yeah.
if you're not wearing a mask, it's like a political statement.
And it was weird because like I came home because my grandmother was sick, she's dying, and it was weird because like I was going to the nursing home like every day and wearing a mask, and I had nurses tell me like, "Why are you wearing a mask? You know that the CDC says you don't need to wear masks." And I was like, "Well, I just came from Korea." One nurse even got aggressive. She was like, "If they did anything, I'd be wearing one." I was like, "All right." I was like, I just feel more. I felt like Valentina. I was like, I'd like to leave it on, please. Like, I feel more comfortable. Like, leave me alone. I just feel more comfortable wearing a mask. Like,
Yeah.
what's the big deal? Jesus. Yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Things have changed.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny now because, like, I was, over the course of the 3 weeks I was home, like, the first week I was there, everyone was like, oh, have you heard of this thing, coronavirus? And I was like, yes, actually I have. We're dealing with it in Korea. And then by the third week, like, I was there, like, when shelter in place started in California.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that's when I was like, I should probably get out before I can't. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you made
Like,
it home safely.
yeah, and like finding a flight was a whole hassle. Yeah.
Yeah. But so, I know that you've done some online performances,
Mm,
and then now y'all are starting to transition back into in-person performances or like filmed together in an empty space performances.
yeah.
So, how has that experience been in terms of like figuring out who you are as a performer in a
Yeah.
digital way?
It's been, I mean, honestly, I just kind of like took this time to like take a break. That was really nice. I like when I came back from the States, I was forced to do like an actual quarantine where I couldn't leave. Um, and actually I landed with like a bit of a cold or something and I panicked.
Oh no.
To the point where like and I live with my boyfriend and I was like, we can't even be in this. Like I like took the bedroom, he took the couch, and like he would like leave food for me in the doorway of the bedroom and I'd eat it and like put my empty plate. We didn't have contact for 2 weeks.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And I used that time. I didn't leave the bedroom, and I was like, "This is great. I'm just gonna sleep and relax and like get over my jet lag and
Yeah.
like do nothing productive." It was awesome. um, it was weird because so after that, cases in Korea were pretty like we were at zero for like a week, and so we reopened shows, and we had shows for about 4 weeks,
Okay.
and everyone was like, "Everything's back to normal" until the whole second wave hit. Yeah.
Right.
And then we had to re-shut things down, and it's just like I said, with the Korean government isn't giving orders, so it's been like up to our discretion, and it's been like a push and pull with the venue owners being like, well, the government says we don't have to close, and I'm like, well, as a producer, I don't want my reputation to be like, even though the government's suggesting it, we're still having shows, and the venue's like, but we want people through the door, and
Right.
it's like I kind of just wish the government would just shut things down so we don't have to like leaving it up to us. Even things like some drag shows are, and it depends on the venue. I'm like, well, that venue has large open windows, we can have fresh air, so maybe
Right.
that's okay. This venue's large enough, we can social distance. This venue's too small, we can't. Like leaving it up to us was pressure.
Yeah. No, that's like because as a producer, you have a responsibility to your
Yeah,
performers, right? And to your audience
an
members, to be
audience. Yeah,
honest.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, it's not just personal gain and wanting to have a good time, right?
yeah.
There's, people's health and safety's on the line.
Yeah. And things like, I don't want to throw my team members under the bus, but like, so we do a weekly Thursday show, and the Thursday shows have been canceled for about 6 weeks, and there's three of us, and we took a vote, and I was outvoted, and we will be returning next week with our Thursday show, and I'm
Oh
like,
boy.
I will not be there. Like I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to go. We're doing our Sunday brunch, but that's because the venue's much larger and people will be seated, and I can seat the tables in a way that are, but like in a small place where people are standing and together, and I was like, I don't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to like, you know.
Yeah. Yep. I get it. It's a lot of negotiation in terms of because nobody at the top is taking responsibility, right? Like what do
Yeah.
you do? Yeah.
The burlesque troupe, we've just kind of suspended like pretty much indefinitely for now, and we've just been doing film stuff. And yeah, I mean, we got together and we were able to like be in a space together and film, and it wasn't a problem. And of course, the venues are like just kind of begging for us to use their space because they can't really have it open for anything else.
Right. Yeah.
So, but the Moby Dick's show, Kings of the World, we're doing the July show, and he wanted like a King's troupe. So it was like a group of like 7 of us Kings, and we decided to film it outside, and that was really fun. I haven't edited the footage yet, but we like filmed it. We found all these like historical Korean temples and the old fortress wall, and we did it like outdoors in these Korean spaces, and it was really fun. It was weird though being like not wearing a mask, like being out in public in makeup is always a weird thing, but like to be out in public without a mask on
Yeah.
felt like a real. So I was like finding a location was such like a hassle for multiple reasons. one person in the group had signed something from her school, which I don't know if it's legal or not, but she had signed something saying she wouldn't go to neighborhoods that had coronavirus cases. The thing with that is that they've been labeling places with the coronavirus as places where foreigners go. So like, oh, those dirty foreigners bring the coronavirus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's funny. It's not funny, but it started out as like a homophobic thing, and the government, bless them, as a way to like protect the gay community, was like kind of just shifted the blame onto foreigners.
Also problematic, but
it is. But protecting their own citizens, which like okay,
sure,
I understand. So yeah, I mean, there was like a day or two where like people were panicking, being like, this is going to harm the gay community so much. I mean, there were like serious concerns that there would be a rise in like you would see suicides rise in the gay community, Korean gay community. So like, I mean, blaming on the foreigners, you're going to be saving lives.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, which I understand. It's very important. And the government did what they could to be like, because there was a moment where like it was assumed if you were getting tested that you were gay, and so the government was kind of like, no, everyone can get coronavirus. Everyone should get tested, even if you're gay or not. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, so there was someone in the group who had signed a document with their job saying that I won't go to foreigner neighborhoods because that's where coronavirus is, apparently. So like finding a location, A, that was not where foreigners are, B, that's not too crowded that we would feel comfortable having our masks off, and C, have like traditional Korean things as a backdrop. It was a challenge.
Oh my goodness.
You did it.
Well, I'm glad you did. That's awesome. So it's the July show.
Yes.
Awesome.
July show. Yeah.
Awesome.
Once I edit it.
That'll be super fun.
Yeah, it was like, and it was 4 foreigners, 3 Koreans, and I met these Korean kings that I had never met before, and it was just like collaborative. It was great.
That's
really fun.
awesome.
Yeah.
So there's some of the community that.
Yeah, I know, it was really fun. It was our first time like really like doing like a group number together, and yeah, it was really fun.
That's cool. Well, I love it. Well, I will encourage everybody who's watching to check out the Kings of the World Twitch stream, which is twitch.tv/Kings of the World. Easy enough, right? But I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about your performance style and your makeup and anything else in that kind of world. So tell me a little bit about your performance style and like who Sapphire Reign is.
Oh boy. It's so funny because like Sapphire Reign started as a burlesque performer, and like when I started, I was like, I'm gonna be like your classic sultry burlesque performer. Like that was that was my goal when I first started. And then like there was one moment where I did an ABBA song, and it wasn't sultry, but it was like supposed to be like a fun, cute, sexy number. And I spun and I fell flat on my face, just like face first, just like down. And there's a video of it, and you hear the audience go, "Oh!" Just like my wig flying. It was just yeah. And it was like that moment where like Nell Fox, who runs the troupe, she was like, I think a good way for beginners to start is to start with like comedy. So if you do fall and people laugh, it's part of the act.
Right. It was intentional.
Yeah, whatever. So I kind of started doing more and more comedy, and then like I got sillier and sillier, and I just kind of like.
And suddenly you're a hungry
so many possibilities. Yeah, and like part of it is that like I didn't graduate with a degree in costume design, but I did major in costume design for a bit. So I have I went to I started my college career at DePaul's theater school as a design major. So I was like, I have all these sewing skills, I have all of these makeup skills that I learned, and I was like, just kind of like bring that into it.
That would explain why your costumes are so awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, finding costume things in Korea is a whole nother challenge. The fabric market here it's literally 5 buildings, and each building is 6 stories, and there's no organization.
Oh no.
It's just kind of like, I'm ready to spend hours of my day looking for red velvet and just wandering the halls and yeah.
Oh my goodness. But the good news about that is that you probably find things that you weren't looking for.
Yeah. And like it's cheaper because they're all just like, you know, just just for they're mostly for like actual brands that are making what's it called? Not for the public for
Like wholesale kind of stuff?
wholesale. That's the word. Most
Yeah.
of it's for wholesale. So the prices are cheap. It's just kind of like not organized. And there are apparently services where you can be like, I'm ordering this, go and find it for me, but it's all in Korean, so I can't figure it out.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But me as a performer, yeah. So I kind of just like started. There was a performer on the burlesque team who like they saw me. I got really really drunk. This show that I fell on my face. After that, I got really really drunk and started dancing like a lunatic. And she was like, "You really like when your dancing style, you can make that an act." And I was like, "What?" And then she was like, "You know what? You could do the scene from Little Miss Sunshine, where she's like." And I was like, "That is not me. That is not my style." And she like pushed for it and pushed for it and pushed for it, and then I did it, and I was like, "I could see this going somewhere." And I just kind of like evolved from there. Yeah.
Yeah. And
But so I describe myself as like campy, comedic. I try to do like a lot of storytelling and like character work.
yeah.
Um, yeah, the drag queens are always like, "Why didn't you just wear the same costume for 2 numbers?" And I'm like, oh. Like that's not how that works.
I always marvel at queens who just have like a utility closet because I go like, and I have the same problem where I go to my closet and it's like, this costume is so specific that if I did anything else in it, I would look weird. Like it just wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, in my closet, like I have something just like hanging, but they're mostly just like in boxes. I bought a label maker and I was like, this is for this number, this is for this number.
Nice.
I'm like, okay, well, can't really like pick and pull. I've done it a few times, but like it's not easy.
Yeah. Like there's small things, gloves and things, right?
Yeah,
Those are
like
utility.
those shoes, I can use those shoes again.
Yeah. But you can't exactly like put Mojo Jojo on an
Right.
ABBA number, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just not a thing.
yeah. But even like last time I did Mojo Jojo, I like didn't paint my face green, and that was like a big step for me. So I did 2 numbers, and I was like, well, I don't have time to take the green makeup off. I was like, is it okay? Like, would it be okay to do Mojo Jojo without a green face? I like, had this whole like existential moment where I was like, what kind of performer am I? Am I one to go on without the right color face?
I'm sure the audience was just as appreciative of the number anyway, right?
A lot of them didn't get the reference till like at the end. Like, was that from Powerpuff Girls? I was like, did the rest of it not give it away to you?
All of the Powerpuff stuff that I was doing.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if the green face would have helped. It might have. I'm not sure.
It's okay. It was a big step. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I know. I was like, and like it was a small like Thursday show where we had like 15 people in the audience, and I was like, I don't need to stress about this. Yeah,
That's so funny.
but yeah. So I try to like do character specific stuff, and I'm trying to like. I don't know. I did Killer Queen online show recently, and that was my first time like experimenting with like green screen, and that was it's a learning experience, and I don't know if I want to do it again. It was like the hardest thing I've ever done.
Really? Was it just in terms of editing or was it live?
Yeah, it was edited. It wasn't live. It was
Okay.
edited. It was just like my laptop couldn't handle it, so I had to use my boyfriend's, and it was just like it was, yeah.
It's a lot. It really is. Like all of this going online stuff, it requires an entirely different skill set.
And more time. like not only am I getting into costume and makeup and performing, it's the editing that like
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. I just got a green screen because even though everything's opening up here, like I am not going back into
Yeah.
a theater anytime soon, just from a like, I don't trust anybody else here.
No,
It's
no,
not
of
even
course
the
not.
other, it's not the performers. Like, I know the performers
Yeah.
are taking care. Like,
Yeah.
I know the club owners and whatever, they're taking
Yeah.
care, but I don't trust the
Yeah.
audience.
No, of course not. Yeah.
Yeah, so lots more online stuff for a while.
Yeah. And I'm like trying to.
But it's
I mean, at least
hard.
we can film outdoors and stuff. That's not a problem. So
Yeah,
it was a good experience. I'm glad I tried it. And just now I know how to do it. I just
for
now I
sure.
know what a time commitment it is. Like,
So you can decide if you want to participate in the
yeah,
future.
because I mean, like I'm still working full time because everyone's like, I have so much time to try new things, and I'm like, no, I still have a job. Like I'm still going to work every day, and like
Wow.
so, yeah,
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. It
yeah,
really is a lot. Like quarantine isn't just staying home and like learning a new skill. It is,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, like, well, we're not even in quarantine, like things are pretty much essentially open. The only thing the government's requiring is that we take temperatures at the door, and they have this new system where you scan a QR code so they can like track you, and that's it. That's it. Everything else is pretty much open.
Good Lord. Well, here's hoping that
Yeah,
that things just keep getting better.
yeah, I'm worried. We've been like consistently. I've been following it. We've been consistently doing like 30 and 50 cases a day,
Okay.
which I guess isn't terrible compared to other places. But like, it's not improving. It's just kind of like we're steady,
Man, what a time. What a time to be alive.
right? Yeah,
You know?
yeah. And trying to like perform and create art and like, and people keep asking me like, when's it coming back? And I'm like,
Yeah.
uh,
Beats me.
yeah. Well, and it's like it's up to me to decide. They're like, you should bring it back, and I'm like, well, it's not on you if something goes wrong. It's on me. You know.
Yeah.
So more careful.
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah.
And, and it sucks because, especially with drag, right? Like, it is a place of community. It is a place where
Yeah.
you go to create art. And it is a
Yeah.
place where you get to, express a part of yourself that maybe you don't get to express, especially
Well,
in.
especially in Korea, where like most people aren't out here.
Yeah.
Like coming to drag shows is like their escape.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah. Some drag shows have opened up. I'm personally not going to them, but
But there's an outlet now.
yeah, right. Yeah, I understand. It's important.
Yeah. Yeah. So, assuming the world goes back to normal and you can get back to performing drag, hopefully soon, in person and not outside and all of that. But, thinking about drag, like, as an outlet for you, like, what does drag do for you as a performer that maybe burlesque doesn't? Or, I mean, obviously I know there's the crossover or any other
Yeah.
performance style. Like, what does drag do for you?
Okay, so I thought about this a lot. I I don't know if I'm like really different from other people in the performance scene. I'm not a natural performer. I'm not. I'm not. And it doesn't come easy for me. Like I have severe stage fright, stage anxiety. I have like panic attacks nearly every time before I go on stage. Like
What?
I don't being on stage is not fun. I usually get off stage and I'm like, well, that was a blur. I can't even remember it. Like people, like the feeling of being like feeling on stage and feeling liberated. Like I've never experienced that. Like that's not
What?
like, I mean, there's a reason why like I majored in costume design and not acting. Cause like that's me. I, like I've thought about this so much where I'm like, if I could just like come up with the concept, create the makeup and the costume and choreography and have someone else perform it, that would be my dream. Cause like, and like, I was thinking about, I was like, if I saw drag or burlesque in the world that like I thought was good and that like I really, really enjoyed and thought was fulfilling what the arts could be doing, I wouldn't be doing this. I would just be like supporting.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing this because I have ideas and I feel like these things are not being created.
Yeah.
Not because I actually want to be doing them.
That's so funny. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was like, there was a moment where like I feel like there was a moment where like my anxiety got really, really bad, and my boyfriend was like, we should like reevaluate. Like, is this something that like is it good for your health? Is it something you want to be doing? Does it make you happy? And I was like, happy is not the word. Like, I feel like I'm fulfilling an artistic need to create art, not a need to perform. I don't have that desire at all.
Wow. That's no, I love that. It's such a honestly, like that's such a fascinating answer because I mean you could just create a bunch of Sapphire clones and have them go out into the world and
I mean,
do
like,
your
I
bidding.
don't want to like tell people they can't create their own art though. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, I feel like kind of actors are that, like, but that's a whole other thing. I hire some actors and be like, here, I made a costume for you, go on stage for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I don't know. And like, I honestly, I like watch videos of myself and I'm like, I don't think I did it justice. Like, I watch myself and I'm like, I had a concept and I don't think, like, I did it like 7 out of 10, like, solid, but like, I don't think I executed in the way that like I had a vision of. And there are people who are like, have natural charisma on stage, and I personally don't think I have. Like, I have to work at it. Like, I can do it, but it's not natural.
I see,
You know
I
what
see.
mean? So, yeah. Yeah.
That's so fascinating. So and it's the drive to create that keeps you going.
Yeah. I just have like so many ideas. Like, just like too many ideas.
Wow.
And I'm like, no one else is doing this, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
At least not here. I mean, I know there's like this scene. It's funny whenever I go back to the U.S. and see performances there. I'm like, I feel like we're like 10 years behind. Just like the style of drag, the style of performance. It's just not as creative and like,
yeah.
conceptual as the rest of the world. As like what I've seen in the Bay Area, at least, it's not nearly. I'm like, there's so much more you can do with it, guys. There's so much more.
Yeah, the Bay Area especially is just man, we're good at weird.
I know. I was like, I thought I was creative.
I say we, I don't live there anymore.
I'm still part of it. Yeah, so I just come back here and I'm like, there's things you can do, and and especially when like the Koreans come to the show and they have no idea what to expect. Especially the burlesque shows. We have Koreans come to the burlesque shows who don't know what burlesque is. There's no word for it in Korean. Like, it does not exist.
Interesting.
So trying to explain it, we'll have a Korean speaker at the door be like, there's dancing and sometimes singing, and it's usually ladies. And then we'll usually like let them peek inside, and they'll peek and they'll be like, oh my God, no, no. And they'll just like, and there'll be a few that are like, okay, sure. And they'll walk in and they're like, what is happening?
Yeah. And especially, I'm sure, I mean, so I don't know if the burlesque scene, does it tend to be more classic, or is it a combo of neo and...
I mean, there are different burlesque troupes in Seoul. The one that I'm part of is a hodgepodge. It's like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I actually felt really honored because like when I joined and I started doing campier things, I was really the only one, which is kind of like I had no one like showing me how to do it.
Yeah.
They were encouraging me, but they're like, it's not my style. You should check it out. And I was like, and then this troupe has definitely become with like, so it was like, that's because of you, Sapphire. And I was like,
That's great.
I don't know if it really is for me, but like, people were like, people who joined the troupe were like, I saw you do it and I didn't know that's what burlesque could be, and it like made me feel like I could try it. And I was like, wow.
I love it.
I'm just like a caterpillar on stage.
I'm just a caterpillar on stage.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's really fun. It's definitely just like a mix. I mean, the woman Nell Fox, who like is the leader of the troupe, she's definitely just like classic, like ostrich feathers and the whole thing, which is great. And she like does it well, but like, yeah, we have quite a variety.
That's so
nice.
cool. So as we're kind of hitting the end of the hour, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you're like, we should probably talk about how this, my experience with drag, my experience with gender, my experience with costuming, whatever.
I don't think so.
Anything you wish other kings knew about kinging or other people knew about kinging
Uh,
or your experience with it.
um, I would just say like, I don't know, like that there are no rules to it, and like the way that I just kind of like accidentally fell into it. Like, I mean, you don't have to be like, I'm gonna start being a drag king. You just kind of like explore, you know, and
Yeah.
like, and don't go into be like, this is gonna be the signature thing that defines my character, and it's like, no, just kind of like evolve, you
Yeah.
know. I keep a like a notebook, a journal of like all my acts, and I I like have them in order. I mean, it's mostly for like packing purposes. I have like all my costumes listed, all my props, and little check boxes so I can like check them off when I'm trying to be organized. And
Oh
like
my
I
God.
list every
I love
time.
your brain. Sorry. I love your brain. That's awesome. I need to do that.
And like I have like I list every like show I performed it at, so I can see like which ones I've done recently, which ones have been a while, like which one's the most popular one to do.
Yeah.
But like I have it in order of like they're numbered as like the first one I ever did and like all the way through. And it's just like so interesting to see like the evolution. Like that ABBA number that I first did, I did it femme, and then like a few months ago I like did it in drag, and like I had to add another page and be like, this is the costume I use if I do it in drag, you know?
That's
Yeah, so
great.
just like seeing your evolution and like things um like and like looking through it, there are certainly acts that like had to retire. You know, there have been a couple acts where like I did, and then people in the audience told me that like, look, I find it a little offensive or like maybe not tasteful enough or something, and I'm like, okay, if I'm getting that feedback, then I have to listen to it and be open to that, and so like and like still like documenting it, being like, this is what it was, it no longer exists, and growing from that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think just be open to growing and evolving and celebrating the journey.
Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you so much. This is super
Yeah,
fun.
it was. It's good to see you.
Yeah, you too. If you want to learn more about today's guests, head over to facebook.com/kingsvoicespod or check out the comments or the description in the YouTube channel, King's Voices Pod. There I'll post all the links to everything you want to know about today's guest, and you can find them from there. If you are interested in becoming a guest yourself, then why not shoot me an email at willxullydrag@gmail.com or shoot me a message on Facebook at facebook.com/kingsvoicespod. All right, so that's it for today. And remember, keep your toxic masculinity to yourself, but share your drag with the world.